Hello everybody and welcome to my presentation, Who Would Win in a Fight? An objective analysis of the strength of my friends and colleagues. This is something people have requested for a long time. They've debated the tale of the tape in various Twitch chats from 2012 onwards. I'm proud to announce that we here at Northernlion Incorporated had a technical breakthrough, came up with stoichiometric analyses and objective simulatory outcomes that have determined the answers to all of your questions. And I'm sure you have many. First, we should go over the methodology. I want to be very clear. This is an objective analysis. Every friend, colleague, co-host, mentor, mentee, they've had their physical, mental, and spiritual abilities combined in a composite value and placed into our patent-pending REFS system, the Realistic Expectations Fight Simulator. From there, 250,000 simulations were performed. What you will see from this point onwards are the results of those simulations. Please, if you have issues, you can read the documentation that comes alongside this video. Without further ado, let's get started. The first competitor, Dan Gheesling. Let's go over the tale of the tape. He is a fully grown adult male with no visible fight disadvantages, such as having both of his hands stuck in a jar slightly too small to get them out of, or, unusually short arms, an inability to see at near distance or far distance. I think we got to keep him at a baseline level. He has 2 children, which provides him with a considerable buff to both his strength and his toughness. He is a benefactor of dad's strength, but also you take some abuse when you got kids as well. Kids are rude. On top of that, he has weathered the slings and arrows of America's television audience not once but twice, and most people out there watching this would probably rather take a punch to the face than have 25 million Americans give their anonymous feedback of you in a very edited environment like Daniel did. So I think spiritually and mentally he's got some toughness. He does have some disadvantages though. From working with him, I think there's a good chance he would not read the rules of the fight. That would probably leave him at a disadvantage. He'd be saying, I didn't know we were able to bring blunt weapons. I didn't realize it was going to take place on a rooftop. Without being able to do those necessary preparatory steps, it would probably be his biggest drawback. However, presenter. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I think you got to, at the end of the day, you got to give him an A+. When you take all of his factors together and put him into the simulation, this is what got spit out. Next, we have Apollo, dumb dog. I have to tell you, he is taller and has broader shoulders than any other human being I've personally eaten dinner with to the best of my memory. I have seen taller individuals and perhaps remarked to a person next to me, I wonder if he plays basketball. I maybe even have exchanged pleasantries, hi, hello, how are yous. I do not believe I have had dinner with a taller person or a person with wider shoulders than Apollo. He also hates losing enough that he would do anything he had to do to secure the victory. Behind the scenes conversations, practice, etc., etc. You saw in Champions Assault, I got to the final 3, he already had a backroom deal. I put hidden power with 3 question marks because I can't objectively say that this is true, but I just feel there's something inside of him that if it was in a life or death situation, he might actually be the first recorded case in Earth's history of a real-life Super Saiyan transformation. However, I do have to say that nutritionally, from DoorDash, you're probably getting the macronutrients you need, but you're missing out on your riboflavins, your manganeses, and your vitamins B through Z. So I think it might lead to suboptimal pre-fight nutrition. You don't want to have a blood sugar surge or a blood sugar crash before you find yourself involved in a situation like that. However, you can't argue with the results. That's a straight 5 out of 5. Congratulations to you. MichaelalFox said, there's one thing I didn't write down here. The most professional headshot. next to Dan's, which was taken by CBS themselves. That's an advantage. Put that in the simulation and rerun it. Some people might think that Malf's slightly smaller stature might be a disadvantage, but they forget the obvious. It provides easier access to the sensitive organs contained near the center of mass. You know, if you're 6'4", you're throwing punches, you're trying to hit someone in the kidneys, explain to me the kinematics and biomechanics of that. You're punching from up here. Down there, you're not generating the necessary torque and drive to do real damage. You got to stick to the face, but the face is easily moved. The center of mass, very tough to dodge. He also will do whatever it takes to win, as evidenced by his obsession with telling the story of how he put me in a chokehold in 2009. It is true that he did put me in a chokehold in 2009. What he has not told you, he conveniently leaves this part out every time he tells the story, is that I was on my hands and my knees scrubbing my friend's floor in advance of a party that he was throwing. So I was doing a nice thing and I was in a compromised position, and then he jumped on my back like a spider monkey because he's been watching so much Bellator, and he put me in a chokehold. And yeah, I tapped out. It's not a fair fight, okay? But his ability to fight dirty would be an advantage. He also has an advantage in that he has a good-natured charm and is easily underestimated by the other competitors. This would help him in the social game. He could make alliances or partnerships only to turn around and, dare I say, put them in a chokehold when they're not paying attention. However, as we all saw in that famous viral clip, he's weak against lightning. Still, an overall rating of superb seems most appropriate. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm going to hydrate. This is a very important presentation. Silence, moving on. J. Smith, OTI. The elite ex-military commando, USAF, USEC, University of Florida at Miami, University of Ohio, Miami. I don't know what I'm talking about. He has combat experience, and he did not complete basic training. He completed intermediate training. He also grew up in the American Rust Belt, which provides the necessary grit required and mental toughness to get through a situation like this. Secondly, and by secondly I mean thirdly, he is the only person in this presentation I have seen physically actually take a punch from someone. I was present. He was punched by a mutual friend of ours. He took it like a champ. He didn't even flinch. And you know what is the most impressive of all? He didn't even throw a punch back. Instead, he diffused the situation with his words. And as a result, he didn't have to use his strength. And isn't that the true measure of power? On the downside for him, he does work a normal 9-to-5 job, which means, to be honest with you, he probably won't have the availability required to even show up for this melee. So he might just have to take the L and be disqualified as a result of having occupational obligations. But I think you still got to give him a guaranteed. We're giving him the rating of guaranteed thanks to his results in the simulation. Robert, AlpacaPatrol. I cannot stress enough. He grew up in the city that inspired Tim Burton's bleak, gloomy portrait of Batman, 1989. The whole city is just crime, steam vents belching gas into a moonlit sidewalk, and scattered pearls from Martha Wayne's unfortunate demise upon leaving the opera that fateful night. I can't even begin to imagine growing up in the crucible that inspired such a landmark film. But it must give you some advantages in a combat environment. He also has superior navigational abilities, as evidenced by being the only person on this list who could get you from 31st and 8th to Alphabet City without looking at a phone. In fact, if you tried to show him your phone, he might punch you in the face. I've also met a couple of his friends in real life, and I gotta tell you, they're firecrackers. And I think that this is an advantage in a team-up situation to have some people come out of the woodwork and maybe help you out if you need a posse to be formed. However, it lends to his biggest disadvantage as well, unpredictability. When you keep dangerous bedfellows, you never know when they might be unreliable or perhaps even turn on you. Still, we're giving Robert the highly revered grade of platinum. Our simulation has only spit out one of these, and it gave it to Robert AlpacaPatrol. Congratulations. Baer Taffy, the best rapper in the NLSS crew. I said it. Okay? It's been a couple of years since the raps came out. I can't deny that he had the first and the best. If rapping correlates in any way with physical prowess and fight ability, and a lot of rappers seem to believe that it does, we have to give him kudos for that. We built that and baked it into the Nate Silver style simulation. I have a hypothesis as well that is yet unproven, but that means it could be right. Deep voice equals powerful blows. And it's a bias, I'll admit. And Mike Tyson doesn't necessarily have a deep voice, but there's an exception to every rule. When I hear his voice, I think, I'm lucky we live in the modern world. Were we taken back to the time of the cavemen, he would be a leader of men and have an advantage as a result of that. I don't know. It's like a hormonal thing. It's like when I hear a deep voice, I'm like, if you put that man back in the Stone Age, he's going to be like one of the guys from the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The other thing you got to say, and this is on a spiritual level, he would derive no pleasure from the solemn duty of defeating you. He would be like the anime protagonist who doesn't want to do it because he knows that he could. But what's the point in doing it then? But you forced him. You forced him to do it. And that in and of itself is a spiritual plus and I think a mental toughness advantage as well. However, he is a New England Patriots fan. That has rendered him slightly less able than the average sports fan to weather the highs and lows of natural variations in performance. You know, one loss comes down the pipe and all of a sudden he's like, what the heck? This is the worst season we've had in 12 years. What's the point? But if he can get that momentum going, I think you'll agree that Baer Taffy, he's certified fresh. Both from the critics up in their ivory towers and the everyman, you and me. Sinvicta. I'm going to read it verbatim because I want to be very careful with my diction. Years of bartending and bouncing experience make him the only person on this list who may have caused justifiable physical injury to another human being when no other course of action was possible. I do not suggest that he's beaten up people left and right for his own amusement. However, belligerent patrons who otherwise could not be coerced with light physical pushing and verbs and threats of calling the police, it would not surprise me if at some point he has had to engage in a little bit of an act of physical force in order to secure the security of the people around him and the establishment from which he's contracted. Only brief glimpses of his visage have ever been seen by mortal men. This provides an air of mystery. Is this a Wizard of Oz situation? Or is it like, maybe he's got a superhero alter identity he doesn't want to be discovered? That air of mystery, it means that until you were in the fight, you might not even know who you're fighting. You might be like, who's this guy? And then he'd be like, hey, everybody. And you'd be like, oh, it's Sinvicta. His geographic knowledge also means he never has an away game. You know, if you put him in Iceland, that's a home game. If you put him in Texas, obviously that's a home game. If you put him in Russia, it's a home game. You cannot put him off balance due to your arena choice. However, he has made a lot of natural enemies as a result of endlessly posting gross food pictures on Twitter. The food that he cooks himself, I reserve judgment on. However, many things like showing someone pouring baked beans into a coffee maker and going, does this count as coffee? He has a natural karmic imbalance coming into these fights that will work against him. However, it's a solid 10. And if you disagree, you're wrong. Mathas. I hesitated to even invoke the name of this being because he has eldritch knowledge coursing through his veins. Through the research that he has done for the Chilluminati podcast, it started so simply. Hey, let's do a podcast about true crime. All of a sudden, ghosts. All of a sudden, aliens. And he dug too deep and too greedily. The being formerly known as Mathas now is tapped into a source of cosmic, interdimensional, and extra-dimensional power, the likes of which that you or I, to be honest, couldn't comprehend even while it was happening. And it might be happening right now. I've also got to tell you, I've been watching him play Smash. If he hits you once, cancel Christmas. It's over. He's going to juggle you. He's going to hit you with an up tilt, and then it's a short hop into the peach side B, yaha, grab the turnip, throw it. All of a sudden, you got a golf club in your face. Before you know it, you've been kicked down. You've been stage spiked at 17%. You can't let him get close. If he gets his hands on you, you've already lost. He also never sleeps, and as a result, you're never safe. The maximum danger coefficient from anybody else on this list is roughly 2/3. They're only awake 2/3 of the day. Mathas keeps a 24-hour schedule. It's like It Follows. You can get far, but as soon as you need the rest, he's coming. However, he can be enraptured by trinkets and baubles, as evidenced by the shelf behind him in his videos. Old PC games in their box, jewel cases, CD-ROMs, amiibos, Funko Pops. It's your only chance. Because of that, he's a golden legendary in our indisputable scholastic ranking system. HCJustin has lived in both New York and Florida, which means elemental attacks are not going to do anything against him. They're ineffective. Both ice and fire cannot harm him. He also has a preparatory advantage due to his culinary skills, which provide him with balanced meals with a full macronutrient profile, ensuring that he has the energy and glycogen reserves in order to be at peak performance on game day. He also has 3,500 hours in the simulator, and you know what the simulator is. It's PUBG. He's placed himself in a hardcore combat situation for more than one Earth year. So mentally, he's already got the muscle memory on lock, whether he's got an SKS or an auto shotty. Moreover, combat's just an everyday thing for him. So you think it's going to rattle him? Think again. However, he has one very serious disadvantage. I do not believe in his soul he could bring himself to cause physical or psychic harm to anybody else on this list. As a result, I'm forced to give him a rating of exempt. I would not feel good about myself forcing him to be placed into a situation like this. I'm not sure it'd be fair for everybody else, because if it weren't for the exempt, he'd be getting an exemplary. And you all know how that would turn out. This is Kory. I do need to point out, as one of his strengths, he is not an 11-year-old child as pictured on the right side of the screen. However, this was the last known photograph that I could find without an Instagram or Snapchat filter applied to it. He also, and this is kindred spirits at its core, he taught English in Asia for a decade and thus has an unbreakable spirit. Perhaps it would be better to say that his spirit has been broken so much that it no longer has an impact on him. As a result, any kind of attacks on his will or his psyche could not possibly succeed. He also is an avid cyclist, and he probably could have competed in the Tour de France. Not won, but that's not even like a fair assessment of his skills, because like 99% of those guys were cheating anyway. I mean, everybody knows about Lance Armstrong, but you think like the guy in 8th place in the Tour de France wasn't doping as well? You think everybody from 1 to 250 wasn't doing it? Anyway, I'm not saying like he could have won, because that, we'll never know. But he could have at least like not been embarrassed. He could have completed some stages. However, he gets an upset tummy when he travels. And that's a problem unless the event were to take place near his home. He would be dealing with a slight debuff due to the burbling and the gurgling going on in his guts. So as a result of that, I got to give him a sure thing. It's as close to a lock as you can get. Finally, we have CobaltStreak. As established earlier, fatherhood is a permanent passive buff. It does not go away. Strength and toughness rise. However, you do lose a little bit of vitality due to the sleep loss. He also is the only person on this list who's defeated me in what I would consider to be a legitimate esports event with the eyes of America. And by the eyes of America, I mean the eyes of the very, very small proportion of Americans who happen to subscribe to CBS Sports. Oh, I get CBS. No, CBS Sports. It's premium cable. That being said, and I want to be clear, it was recorded, not live, and there is a difference. I really bring my A game to the live environment personally, but it was recorded, but that it doesn't make it illegitimate. He defeated me with the eyes of America on both of us. And I'm not going to say that there's a large part of that due to the fact that one of the games we played in Champions of Fire 1 was Bloons Tower Defense 6, a game that he has 1,500 hours. It's not really like about me, is the thing. It's about CobaltStreak. He also has an unbreakable will, as evidenced by the fact that he's still playing Isaac 8 years after its initial release. No amount of tedium could slow this man down. However, weak to the elements. If you saw him camping, you know he was prone to fits of psychedelia. He saw some kind of wolf deer, and his eyes got very red from the smoke of the campfire. Some of the more outdoorsy people on this list, of which there are none, might stand a better chance if it ends up being a non-interior battle. But you got to give him 1,000,000% plus no matter what. I'm really sorry that's supposed to say thank you for watching, but I guess I put an extra S in there, so thanks you for watching. I hope this settles any and all questions you may have had about the physical prowess of NLSS members. I did not put myself in the simulation because I don't think that would be fair. I'll leave that up to my other colleagues and perhaps even competitors. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more like this in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks you for watching.